I'm Karen Eason, Elementary English Language Arts Supervisor, and today I'm going to talk with you about the ELA Common Core implementation for grades K through 5. By the end of the presentation, you should be able to access the Standards Pacing Guide, understand the guidelines for unit development, understand the unit plan template, and locate sample units and additional instructional resources. When you click on the Caddo Common Core website, on the left-hand side there is an ELA toolbox. That same toolbox is also found in the center of the screen. Click any spot and it will take you to a page that looks similar to the one on the screen now. When you click on Instructional Resources, each grade level is set up the same way. You'll be able to find some general information about the Common Core Standards as well as the actual Common Core Standards document for your reference. There are some other informational pieces and links that come from the State Department website that are on that page that you may find helpful in your planning. When you click on the tab that says Curriculum Plans, you will find our local documents. These include the Pacing Guide. When you open the Pacing Guide document, it's an Excel spreadsheet workbook. The front page, cover page, has some specific instructions on how to get to your grade level. If you look at the bottom of the workbook, you will see grade level tabs. Click on the tab that relates to your grade level, and it will open the Pacing Guide for your grade level. It will look something like this. Each grade level curriculum planning guide, pacing guide page has 4 columns. They're numbered to indicate the 9-week grading periods. And at the top in the header of each document is a key. You'll notice on the right hand under each column there are letters that indicate whether a skill is introduced, reinforced, considered to be proficient, or not taught at all during that 9-week grading period. Any of the skills that are highlighted as proficient will be skills that will be tested on the district benchmark assessments. Also under the Curriculum Plans tab, you will find some guidelines for writing unit plans. There will be some sample plans already posted for you, which you can use as they are printed, or you can tweak those plans to fit your needs. However, as a district, to provide some consistency across the district, we will expect all teachers to use the themes from Storytown as well as the phonics scope and sequence from Storytown. On the page that you have before you now, there are a couple of links that I recommend that you use to help in writing your unit plans or to tweak the unit plans that you have been provided. The timelines and sample themes are indicated on the unit planning guidelines as well. Here's a sample of the chart for each of the 4 9-week grading periods. In addition, on the Curriculum Plans tab, you will have the template. There will be templates that are already completed for each grade level for the first units for you to use as samples or to use as they are printed. If you choose to write your own plans, then you will use the guidelines as printed before and use the sample template. The template is pretty simple to follow. The first section is basic information about your name and your school. Your unit theme or title, which as I said before will be the Storytown themes. A brief summary about your unit, which subject areas you intend to cover in the unit, and of course you know we would encourage you to integrate other content areas as you focus on your ELA standards, which grade level you're choosing to write for. There's a drop-down box for which marking period or 9-week period you're in and the specific dates. Each unit should have some essential questions based on a broad overarching question as well as unit and content questions. In your unit planning guidelines, there is a link that you could use to the Salt Lake City School District, who has some sample ones done for you if you would like some other ideas. The next parts of the plan have to do with our student learning objectives, those I can statements about what we want students to know and be able to do, as well as your assessment plan for the unit, things that they will do before the unit, things that they will do during the unit, and then after the project is completed. Based on the PARC guidelines, all units should include some sort of project. The next part of the unit plan template has to do with prerequisite skills. Identify any skills that you feel students will need to be able to successfully master your unit. And very importantly, include your reading foundational skills. This includes phonics, word work, spelling, writing conventions, including handwriting. All of these topics should be covered in your unit, and as I've said before, the scope and sequence for the phonics and word work and spelling will be following the Storytown scope and sequence. Comprehending and composing. You will use at least one of the Storytown stories that falls in that theme, but you can add additional texts that relate to the theme. If you choose additional text, be sure to think about which vocabulary words will need to be introduced and which methods of presentation you will need to use. Also consider if there is any academic vocabulary. When you click on the link in the template, there is a sample list of suggested academic vocabulary words that you might want to include. The next section deals with accommodations for differentiated instruction. Be sure to think about any students that you may be serving that are special needs, non-native speakers, or those that we need to enrich with gifted and talented. Include all of your technology, as well as any other supplies that you may need. You'll notice under printed materials, if you choose to add additional texts, you can write them in there and use the chart on the left-hand side, which comes from the Common Core State Standards based on Lexiles, to make sure that you're including rich, complex text. When you think about complex text, don't just look at Lexile, though. Think about what other items in a story or nonfiction text might make it complex, what other features that might make it complex. If you need additional information about the unit plan template, there are some appendix pages attached to more deeply explain what some of those sections mean. Earlier in the presentation, I referenced the Salt Lake City Schools website, that the hyperlink is in the unit plan guidelines. They already have some pacing guides for using Storytown if you wish to use Storytown throughout the year with all of the stories. And here's a sample of what they have provided for creating essential questions when you're doing the comprehending and composing sections of your units that you may find helpful. In addition, I've recommended to principals and coordinators that schools consider purchasing teaching basic writing skills. Writing is something that is an issue, and this is an inexpensive program that could help students build basic writing skills all the way up through very complex writing skills to meet our needs with Common Core. Some free resources that we have available to us are the Basal Alignment Project on Edmodo. If you need information about how to get on that, you can contact me or Christina Grimion at Teacher Technology, and we can assist you with that. It's for grades 3 through 5. And if you're looking for additional texts that might support your units, a free resource that we have is readworks.org. They have available skill and strategy units, as well as some novel study units, in addition to standalone passages, both fiction and nonfiction, that you may find helpful in your planning. If you need additional information, here is my contact information as well as the district literacy team contact information. We will be glad to support you at your schools should you have any needs. Thank you.
Stevens. I'm going to take you today through the Math Toolbox, kindergarten through 8th grade, that is located within the cadocommoncore.com website. On this website, you will find all sorts of materials that either new teachers or veteran teachers can use in order to make sure that this year we are focusing in on the Caddo Common Core or the Common Core standards. Once you log into cadocommoncore.com, you will come to the home page. On the home page, on the left-hand side, you will find that there are many different subject areas along with additional resources like EOC and Eagle. And you will also find out that there will be new additions that are added on daily. Anytime you want to find out if there's something new, this is the page that you need to log into. In order to find the math-specific toolbox, you can enter it either of two ways. You may go to the math toolbox on the left-hand side, or you may click on the underlying math toolbox link, which is in the center. This will bring you to the home page for the caddoCommonCore.com Math Toolbox. This toolbox is divided into 4 sections. You will see curriculum plans, instructional resources, assessments, and professional development. In the first column, it is organized by grade level, and you will see that we even start at pre-K and go all the way to high school. Once you determine the grade level that you are looking for, and you click on that, you will come to the curriculum plans. The curriculum plans have been devised for each grade level. Within these plans, with the help of the teacher leaders in the April and the June meetings, we came up with some information that we felt would be useful and beneficial to all. The first thing that you might find on the Caddo Common Core website under the curriculum plans would be a year at a glance. You will also find things like the unit plans. You will find a unit plan template. You will find the Unit 1 plan for most of the grade levels already developed by the teacher leaders. You will also find a pacing guide, which is a work in progress that you are to use to guide you and put your resources on. Some other things that you might find there are envision correlation with a new textbook, K through 2. You also might find the Common Core curriculum activities that we have devised through the transitional curriculum documents. But let's look at the year at a glance. The year at a glance is probably the most important document that you will find on this website. You can see that a year at a glance, everything that is supposed to occur for that school year. This includes the units, the content standards, the benchmark assessments, and color coding, which we will talk about in a minute. To begin with, you can see that this is broken down into 6 units. Not every grade level is broken down into the same amount of units. Once you look at your document, year at a glance, you'll see how many units it's broken into, and you'll get an idea as to what the title is for each unit. This gives you an idea of what you'll be covering for that particular unit. As I stated, some of the year at a glance documents have correlations. In this particular one, you can see that there is an Envision, which is the new K-2 textbook that has been adopted, and it gives you some idea as to what will be covered under that section. Also, you can see comprehensive curriculum units are on this particular correlation. Not all of the grade levels have this correlation into the year at a glance, but some of them do. Next, you'll see a time frame. Under this time frame, these are suggested amounts of time that should be spent on each unit. Again, let me reemphasize, these are suggested times. But please keep in mind that everything that's on this year at a glance has got to be covered. For those of you that are doing testing grades, has got to be covered before testing. Next, you'll see the Common Core State Standards. You can see that this document is color-coded, with the green standing for the major clusters, the blue standing for the supporting clusters, and the yellow standing for the additional clusters. Remember last year, those of you that went to Common Core trainings, we learned how to read the standards. These are standard information that needs to be placed on lesson plans or with any type of document that you're turning in. And they're very easy to read once you start practicing them. For example, on this particular slide, the first number stands for the grade level. The second, or the first letter, stands for the domain. And finally, the last number stands for the standard. So in this particular case, we have 6 GA4, 6, grade level 6, the domain is geometry, and the standard is number 4. The State Department updates information daily, weekly, monthly. And one of the new things that they've added is the gaps. We have placed these gaps on grades 3 and up so that you can see that while you're teaching a particular unit, that you're going to have to cover some things that may not have been covered previously. In this document, you will see that in 7th grade, they're having to cover some of the 6th grade standards because the students may not have been introduced to those. The parish has decided to administer benchmark assessments for the 2013-14 school year. On your year at a glance, you will see where these benchmark assessments will take place. They're not all going to be at the same amount of standards for each grade level, but they will be at the end of the 9 weeks period. Some of them will indicate that not all the standards are going to be covered, and some of them will specifically say that all the standards in that particular unit will be benchmarked. Remember, benchmark assessment is cumulative. Finally, you will see the clusters. As we have already discussed, the green stands for the major clusters, the blue, the supporting clusters, and the yellow, the additional clusters. One other column that you'll find there is the standards for mathematical practices, and also the potential gaps in students' prerequisite knowledge. All of this is on the year at a glance. So, the first document that any teacher should look at for the 2013-14 school year would be a year at a glance to just get an overall view as to what will be covered for that particular year. Another document that we have added is the pacing guide. The pacing guide is a teacher resource. It is to be used for you to document resources that you're using in order to cover those standards. It is designed just like the year at a glance, except on this particular document, you can see that we have really clarified what the standard is. We have explained it so that you can see it fully. Also, the time frame is still on there. There is a textbook correlation in case you decide you want to use some of the textbook. Resources and activities are there in case you want to use comprehensive curriculum activities or any activities from any of the state websites. Please keep in mind some of the grade levels have this filled out for you, so they're showing you where the resources are. Some of them do not, and this is to be used by the teacher to indicate any type of resources that they use. Here is an example of grade 1 that is filled out for the teacher. You can see that this bold, underlined Common Core State Standard is a major cluster, and they have included the Envision pages. One of the other things that we have worked on diligently this summer is to take the comprehensive curriculum and look and find just the content standards and put them in a document for you to use. If you notice that when you open up the comprehensive curriculum activities, you'll see the content standards along with the definition of what they are. We have also indicated what the mathematical practices are and what the MP 1, 2, and so forth stands for. Here's a sample of a curriculum activity for grade 1. If you notice, it tells you what materials you will need for this activity. It tells you what standard is covered. It tells you what mathematical practices are used. And then it gives you an idea of how you're supposed to teach this particular activity. Another thing that we have provided for you are blackline masters. So if you go into the curriculum and you see Activity 14, it will match up with Activity 14 blackline master. These are reproducible for you to use if you decide to use this resource with your Common Core State Standards. All the grade levels for English and Math are using the unit plan template. The unit plan template is a guide for you to use in order to plan your units ahead of time. If you notice in this particular template on the first page, I would like to focus in on the objectives and the student outcomes, the learner outcomes. This needs to be filled in, especially the area about questioning. Remember, we want to use Bloom's taxonomy to make sure these questions are rigorous and are high-level questions. Another part of this unit plan template is the assessment plan. If you notice where we want to find out what happens before you start this unit, That can include a pretest. It can include activities that come before. We want to know what type of activities you're doing within the unit, and then how are you assessing when the unit is completed. Here's a sample unit plan. It is a sample unit plan for grade 8. On this particular unit plan, you can see the title, you can see how many days are needed for this, and then you can see the standards and benchmarks, and then exactly what are the learners' outcomes. And in this case, they have put down the questions that they want the teachers to make sure they cover when they introduce this unit. Going back to the math toolbox, you will also see that there are instructional resources, there are assessments, and there's professional development. Under the instructional resources, you will find that there are things that we have covered in professional development that was held last year or this summer. These are just common information for teachers to look at just to make sure they understand what the instructional shifts are in math and what Common Core State Standards is all about. There are additional resources within the pacing guide and within the documents that we have for math on the toolbox, and they include Envision textbook correlation. There are some tasks in there from the Georgia Common Core website, and then for grade 1 there's a formative assessment checklist. Again, I'm Lorraine Stevens. I'm the math supervisor for K through 12. If you need to contact me, my email is lstevens@caddo.k12.la.us. My co-heart with math is Tanya Evans. She is the Title I math supervisor at tevans@caddo.k12.la.us. Or you may contact Matthew Mitchell, the professional development specialist for high school, at mamitchell@caddo.k12.la.us. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today in regard to the wonderful website that Caddo Parish teacher leaders have put together to support you teachers in the instruction of math. Again, thank you teacher leaders, and I hope everyone has a wonderful year.